the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Is Tennessee getting, in all seriousness? Landon Mack in the boat from Rutgers. Huge stunner. It was a Tennessee LSU battle. Two premier programs, the two biggest programs in college baseball right now. It seemed maybe for a while that he might be going towards LSU. And then Tony Vitello swoops in late and gets their righty ace, who I assume probably good bet to be a Friday night guy for Tennessee in 2026. But big time K numbers, K and walk numbers. You tweeted about like just what the K numbers and just the lack of walks that this new class has coming in, that is not going to be an issue that we saw this past year if projections stand firm. But what are the Vols getting in Landon Mack from Rutgers? What's his most exciting trait, and where do you have the biggest question mark with the former Scarlet Knight?
Yeah, I think there's, just in the short term, it's a for sure weekend starter. Like Tennessee, I liked a lot of what they'd done in the portal on the mound. I like a bunch of the arms, but I didn't look at any of those guys and say this is definitely a weekend starter in the SEC. Clay Edmondson, you're like, yeah, maybe, but he did it last year. Was really good at UNC Asheville, but it's a different deal, and who knows if he even makes it to campus. So I think that for one, I would agree he would be my bet to be the Friday guy, but we'll see what ends up happening there. I don't think that's locked in by any means, but definitely gonna be a weekend starter, and I think it's kind of the pitchability more than anything. I think he's a guy that's very comfortable in who he is. He does have good stuff. He pounds the strike zone. He gets deep into games. He was unafraid, and look, the Big Ten's not the SEC, but he was unafraid as a true freshman, stepping into some big moments. There's good reason he was the number one pitcher in the transfer portal. But I'll say arguably, but I think the two best programs in college baseball were the two competing for his services. So I think it's a huge get from that aspect. Tennessee needed him. I think from a question mark standpoint, it's that jump to the SEC. I don't think it's super overwhelming stuff. I would want to watch him a little bit more in person and before I really say that it's not overwhelming stuff. But I don't think it's it's not a Liam Doyle type fastball or anything like that. So just how's that play in the SEC? And then I think the other super intriguing part of it is that he's got 2 more years. Is just a true freshman this past year. He's not a draft eligible sophomore. He'll have to play 2 more seasons of college baseball before going professional. Obviously, he could enter the portal again, but I expect those 2 seasons to be at Tennessee. So I think a ton of excitement there that you get him in the boat for 2 years, and then you always Tegan Kuhn is a draft eligible sophomore next year, but Braden Krenzel also a guy that has to play 2 more years. So I think you can kind of see Tennessee a potential weekend rotation forming that could stay for largely intact for 2 more seasons.
Feels like this is the new Doe, right? This is the closest they've had to landing Doelander, right? That's what I watched and kind of saw.
Yeah, I think so. Look, closest to, probably doing a lot of weight. I don't want to put SEC pitcher of the year pressure on him. I did do that to Liam Doyle last year, but
I was going to say,
I don't want to at least put. Yeah. I don't want to put SEC pitcher of the year pressure on him at least until February. At least
we can put that on him. He was being chased by LSU and Tennessee. Like the expectations, it's fair to have them extremely high based on who was chasing him and what his season was at Rutgers last year and the stuff like you said. Like I think it's fair to have really sky high expectations for this kid.
I don't think SEC pitcher of the year expectations are fair.
Over a 2-year span, like you don't think another year?
Maybe over 2-year span. Yeah, I meent more from Doe came in and was pitcher of the year the first year in the conference. In 2 years, I think that it does become a lot more fair. So, I do think from the stuff standpoint, from the physical build standpoint, and from obviously the 2-year aspect, and I think still a good bit of room to grow. I would say from a portal pickup, he's the closest thing Tennessee's had to Doelander.
I like it. Yeah, I'm excited because it's just you needed someone because we were talking last week. It's like, is DJ Newman going to be the 3rd starter in the weekend rotation? And you like him as an option, depending on how this fall goes. But maybe you might need him in the lineup. Maybe he's a bullpen guy. I don't know. But it was just kind of waiting to see if Tennessee landed a big arm because that lefty arm was just not going to pop up. I mean, the portal closes tomorrow. So it is one of those deals where the big lefty guy that they wanted. I just don't think is going to pop into the portal this year. I think it's going to be like 2022 for this team. Like it's going to be an all righty weekend rotation, I feel like.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's a beautiful already pitching staff largely.
Yeah.
I'm sure at least somebody will emerge. But it's very heavy right-handed. I think two things on that. I think that's one, why it's important Clay Edmondson gets to campus. Because if you have Edmondson and Frederick, who are at least two guys with the low arm slot submarine pitchers, they're not lefties, but it gives you a different look and maybe a little bit more effective attacking lefties. I will say Bo Rudy had really good numbers. The Kennesaw State edition, he had really good numbers against lefties last year. So there are some guys I think mitigate that concern a little bit. But that's big. And then, yeah, just in general, I don't know. I'm not following every ounce of it. There wasn't the star power to me in the portal this year that there's been some years in the past. There were the Virginia guys. But besides that, there weren't like a ton of just absolute studs hopping into portal or anything like that. So I think that, especially when you look at what Tennessee needed on the mound, that maximizes the importance of Landon Mack, even more.
That's fair. Ethan Stone, the NBA draft came and went last week, and two Tennessee Vols, one of a handful of schools that had two players drafted.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.